So most of my ideas I try to derive from other plants or other cacti and try to apply it onto the Trichocereus and other cacti. And an idea I want to try is stem tipping. This is often done on dragon fruit. When the cutting is matured, you take off like a few inches from the top. I'll be taking off 1 inch, and the idea, you do this in late winter since you don't want vigorous new growth. What you want is flowering. So tipping it would accumulate the carbohydrates in the plant and in theory promote flowering. It would obviously need to be mature enough for it to work. And if you cut this during the growing season, it'll just cause pupping. So from what I've read, you would want to do this late winter, and that's around the time we are now. And with this cutting in specific, I've applied it to all of my cacti, but this one specifically seems to show the best flowering promise for my treatments. Some of these, it could look like it's trying to make a thicker spine, but some of them do look like flower buds. There's another one down here, and there's quite a few all over this cutting that look like they're close to blooming. And this is induced, so it may not completely flower, but even a definitive bloom or bud would be very promising. And there's some dark ones here somewhere. But in any case, what I'll be doing here on this one, which is the most promising one, and on my largest Girdling, that's the semi-hydroponic setup, I'll also be removing the crowns about an inch or so, like a finger's length, from the 3 sections. This one I haven't found any what I would consider to be flower buds, unlike this one. So hopefully I see the contrast and it works. And on this cutting, as well as this larger one, what I'll be doing, rather than tipping, I'll be girdling. I'll remove it, I'll do a 50% girdle and see if it possibly induces flowering as well, since girdling has the same idea where you limit the amount of the nutrients going back to the roots, and the carbohydrates stay stored in the top section, and it also induces flowering but in other plants. So we'll see if it can be forced to possibly induce flowering as well. Again, it needs to be a mature enough cutting. This one is still fairly thin, but it looks mature based on the noid distance. Some of the spines are quite, the noids are, the areoles are larger, so there is a possibility that it may work. Or I may just be damaging my cacti for no reason, but we'll see. And then I'll leave these on their own. This one is always melting a bit. It's changing ribs, and it's almost stable with two spines per areole. But there was one here that had 3. I think it's this one. It just fell. But most of them look pretty nice. You can see it's shifting a lot here. And yeah, that's my experiment. It'll be a while, and it may not even work out, but I'll be girdling this one this one, and probably this one as well. This one has been growing the fastest. It was pretty slow growing at first, but once I got it into the planter, it grew very fast. And then I'll be tipping these. Hopefully it'll induce a bud. And the acacia are doing quite well. I probably planted too much into this, but that's fine. The Trichocereus pacanoid cross pacanoid, out of I believe 20 seeds, I have 5 strong seedlings. They've been uncovered since 1 month of sprouting, and they're doing very well. They're a little slow growing, but we're still in winter, and I'll be grafting onto probably 2 or 3 onto this single pacanoid, or not pacanoid, Peruvianus. Here are the tips, probably just under an inch or so. Very, very dark skin on the semi-hydroponic Burgesi, and just as dark but not as intense on the largest Burgesi that I have some promising looking flower buds forming. So we'll see if I get any of the telltale signs of the flower bud, that hairy fuzz, where they get the name from. And if not, it's fine. This is just an experiment. It's not a big deal. And then I'll be girdling. Like I mentioned, these, what I'll be doing is what I did when they were very young. I'll be doing a 50% girdle. I'll basically just stab the rib section. I'll just stab it across and then cut a section off, and it'll be a 50% girdle. I'll do it to both of these, since they're on the same root system, as well as this and this larger one here. And here's the end result. So I just basically just stab the cutting after making a straight cut through the center, and then go and cut the top and the bottom, and it usually comes off. So you can see some core, the zaline layer, not zaline, I don't know how to pronounce it. Starts with an X, but the center core is cut in half, and it's a 50% girdle, maybe a little less, but it's around 50%. And the idea is that nutrients will still go up the cutting, but it won't come down as fast. So it should accumulate the nutrients and the carbohydrates and flour, or potentially induce flowering. And I did that, like I mentioned, with these two, which are on the same root system. I topped the Burgesis that I mentioned beforehand, and I also girdled this very fast growing Burgesi. Sometimes the cutting the center here for the girdle, since it starts getting woody, it's a bit difficult, but you just slightly saw off the core, and you want to make sure to remove the core so that it actually achieves the girdle effect. The core came off, you can see just the ribs, and I had to go back and saw off the woody core material. And then some of them are easy since it's still fairly soft. And yeah, I'll save this for a future extraction, and we'll see if this induces flowering. So besides this physical treatment that I did, where I topped off the stem and I did a girdle on the rest, I am doing a very high PK nutrient, low nitrogen. In general, I have a low nitrogen system going, and I also am using the True Color formula. It increases the nutrient uptake as well as a few different other properties. And one more ingredient which I'm not sharing for now, but I may actually share it with everyone that has already received the True Color formula on a way to force or induce flowering better. If it works out, I'll share it with everyone that has already donated to my channel, and I'll be reducing the cost of the formula to make it more accessible and cheaper, and to offset any, I guess, unfair sharing of the original costs. Like I mentioned, I'll be sharing the nutrient values that I'm using and the other ingredient that I'm using that I'm not sharing for now, and it'll offset any lost value from paying a higher fee for the formula, where everyone else would just get the formula and not the rest of the system. And yeah, the effects should take a few months to take hold, and since we're starting to warm up, it should show its effects either in pupping, or, since there isn't strong growth yet, at least in some of them, forming new buds, flower buds.